So, my friends, when Putin withdrew from the agreement in July, he hoped to leave Ukraine without a crucial channel of exports and an influx of foreign currency. Even the bombardment of ports in Odessa and on the Danube was intended to help with that. However, Ukraine managed to address this issue, and trade in the Black Sea is said to become one of the main sources of budget revenue next year. Ukraine's Minister of Infrastructure, Alexander Kurbakov, says that since August, Black Sea ports have exported 7 million tons of cargo, while only 278 tons of production were exported in the first month. The volume is expected to reach 5 million tons by December. This is significantly more than during the grain agreement under the auspices of the UN. During the grain agreement, the average monthly shipment volume was 2,700,000 tons. Furthermore, while Ukraine could only export agricultural products and fertilizers during the grain agreement, now they are exporting metals and other goods. In August, the naval forces announced the creation of temporary corridors for trading vessels. According to Kurbakov, 200 ships passed through them for outbound and 226 for inbound in 3 months. The New York Times reports that these shipments already have a noticeable positive impact on the economy and will become one of the drivers of its growth next year. The publication forecasts that next year the export of goods through the maritime corridor will reach 7 million tons per month, as more ships are using it every week. Initially, ship owners were afraid to operate through the new corridor because Russia threatened to consider any ships heading to Ukraine as transporting weapons. However, in 3.5 months, Russia only stopped ships for inspection once. Another ship came under fire in a Ukrainian port. So ship owners considered the risk justified. The breakthrough of the Russian blockade of the Black Sea became possible after several unsuccessful military operations. Firstly, Ukraine regained full control of the Boyko Towers, which Russia captured in 2015 and used as military facilities in the beginning of the full-scale invasion. Also, a series of successful strikes by the defense forces against the Black Sea Fleet managed to drive enemy ships out of the northwestern part of the sea. British intelligence noted that after this, the Russian Federation simply doesn't have the forces to block Ukrainian ports. Now, let's look at the situation on the front. And let's start immediately with the Kherson direction. Our General Staff, after several months, has confirmed that Russians are conducting offensive actions in the village of Kreminna and trying to squeeze our forces from there. Moreover, as we already know, shelling continues on the right bank and in Kherson. Despite the Russians' attempts, they are unable to dislodge our units from the left bank, and the struggle continues. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the Russians also continue shelling, but near Novoprokopivka, the Ukrainian Armed Forces managed to repel all attacks. Today, offensive actions are recorded only near Verbove. At the same time, the Ukrainian Armed Forces struck in the Tokmak area. There are no details yet, but most likely another Russian base has been hit. As today, they are actively mobilizing forces to achieve success in this direction. In the Vuhledar direction, shelling is also ongoing, but the intensity is not the highest, and there are no attacks along the front line. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian forces yesterday struck in the direction of Mariupol, indicating that the destruction of Russians continues even in the rear. In the Avdiivka direction, the occupiers launched attacks in the Pokrovsk district. Later, explosions were heard in the occupied Makivka. There is a possibility that missiles launches were conducted from there. It is also reported that a fire broke out at the university in Donetsk entirely by accident. On the front line, battles are ongoing. Russians are storming Ukrainian positions near Novobakhmutivka. Attacks have also resumed today in the Novokalinovo area, and the fights near the coke chemical plant continue. The Russians still cannot break through to the outskirts of Avdiivka, and the battles persist. In the industrial zone, a significant number of offensive actions are recorded every day. However, these don't lead to Russian successes, but rather result in losses. A drone from one of the units flew over and showed destroyed occupant forces in the area under Svatove on the northern outskirts of Avdiivka. The number of enemy losses is truly staggering, and this is just a small piece of the flank. The occupiers failed to make progress near Severne and Nevelske. Therefore, their attacks have ceased in this area. However, their battles continue around Pervomaiske, albeit without success. Over the past day, there have been no changes in the front line on this direction, which is a reassuring development. Moreover, the Ukrainian Armed Forces are now receiving a significant number of FPV drones for this direction, allowing them to further destroy the occupiers. This poses problems for the occupiers as they haven't yet achieved their goals and the losses are already overwhelming. According to information from analysts and intelligence, the Russians are planning to relocate their 57th separate motorized brigade from the Bakhmut direction to the Avdiivka or Marinka areas. This decision is explained by the priority to achieve success in the Avdiivka direction. Due to the poor conditions of existing units, there is a reshuffling of forces from the Bakhmut direction.
Near Avdiivka, we are now witnessing an attempt by the Russian command to maintain the planned scope and volume of its offensive. In particular, by moving additional, and most importantly, more or less combat-ready formations to this direction, even at the expense of other active areas and directions. But I think that soon they will face another hard necessity to increase the so-called operational pauses, meaning the time intervals between periods of activation/attacks. That is, the periods of regrouping of their forward units directly involved in attacks and assaults will begin to increase, as well as the time required to replenish them.
While this information is somewhat reassuring, indicating effective destruction of the occupiers, it also suggests that the intensification of attacks by the Ukrainian forces is making it increasingly difficult for the occupiers to achieve success. Initially, they conducted large-scale assaults with significant support and equipment, but as the intensity decreases, the ability to achieve success diminishes. However, it appears that foreign publications may have a different perspective on the situation at the front. Some have claimed that the Ukrainian Armed Forces lost control of Svatove. In reality, discussions on social media and statements from Ukrainian soldiers confirm that Svatove remains under Ukrainian control and there has been no retreat. In the Bakhmut direction, there has been an increase in shelling along the entire front line, likely due to the fact that the Russians have been unable to make any significant advances, suffering considerable losses. Battles are ongoing in the areas of Bogdanivka, Klishchiivka and Andriivka. Over the past day, there have been no changes in the front line. In the Siversk direction, all occupant attacks have ceased as expected and the front line remains unchanged. They have been unsuccessful in achieving any breakthroughs and today only shelling continues. In the Kreminna area, the Russians persist in their attempts to capture any positions of the Ukrainian Armed Forces near Terne. Shelling also continues in Nevske and Torske, but the front line remains unchanged. In the direction of Svatove, after a period of relative calm, the enemy has become active once again. This time, they are attempting to break through to Synkivka, conducting small group assaults. Despite their efforts, the Ukrainian Armed Forces have successfully repelled about 8 attacks. On the Kupiansk front, active fighting is taking place for Synkivka, while in the area of the highway and Ivanivska, the Russians are facing a complete failure. The Ukrainian Armed Forces have successfully repelled all attacks and no offensive actions are reported today. And that's all from me. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.